Well, thanks for having me today. It's a real pleasure to talk to a diverse group of people working across the technology sector and out here in industry. So, technology is a foreign policy issue, and that's why my role exists. Traditionally, we think of ambassadors as being posted to a foreign country and sitting in a beautiful residence in a foreign capital. Increasingly, we've recognised that so much of our security and prosperity is tied up in the global technology market. So much of our security and prosperity is tied up in the behaviours that we see in cyberspace. And so my role was created in 2017 to represent Australia's national interests globally, to work with partners on ensuring that we have a safe, secure cyberspace. Now that increasingly matters because everything is connected. And this audience knows this better than nearly everyone else. Digital technologies underpin every aspect of our lives. That's really positive. It's brought a lot of benefits. I do a lot of work in the Asia Pacific. It's brought incredible development dividends in terms of e-commerce, in terms of better digital services for government. But my background is in the national security space, and we're often paid to be pessimistic. And so what I look at when I look at a digitally connected world is that we've also introduced incredible fragility across the system. It is a great audience to be amongst where the technology world tends to be very optimistic. That's why you do what you do. You see the opportunities, you see the chances for innovation, the good that can bring, the commercial opportunities that can bring. But the world that I look at sees digital technologies that are ubiquitous but are highly vulnerable. We see that a lot of the technologies that we use in our world today, be it enterprise software, IoT devices that we plug into our homes, are not secure by design, or even if they are still subject to vulnerabilities that come from sophisticated malicious cyber actors or from the fact that we're humans and are inherently vulnerable, make bad decisions, don't apply patches, don't do software upgrades. What that creates is a world where cybercrime is getting substantially worse and will continue to get worse. Cybercriminal actors operating out of a jurisdiction like Russia are reaching into the smallest Pacific Island states and targeting hospitals, childcare centres, schools. We have created a crime type that can reach across the world and target the most vulnerable. We are seeing nation-state actors increasingly use, with impunity, cyber tools as a tool of state coercion. Now, I want to come to AI and how we see AI from a global governance perspective and how it sits within the geopolitical dynamics that I spend most of my time working on and thinking about. But before that, I want to share some examples of why I have some pessimism about the next few years in the global digital world, and why I think it's crucial that we're more open in talking about this, particularly with communities such as yourselves, who work in the technology sphere or use technology and are thus, whether you like it or not, subject to some of these challenging geopolitical dynamics. So we used to think that there were a finite number of nation-states with highly sophisticated cyber tools that could launch an attack across the globe on another government or on critical infrastructure. What we've seen is that pool has expanded. Sophisticated cyber tools are available for purchase, often on the dark web, but also on the clear web. We're talking about exploits, we're talking about spyware, we're talking about commercial surveillance tools, we're talking about ransomware as a service. If you want to be a cyber criminal, you do not need to be a sophisticated coder these days. You can get online, engage with a ransomware company, they will provide you with their cyber tools, they will help you use them, and they will provide you with a help desk. Their IT support is incredibly responsive because they are looking for you to have an easy experience in perpetrating a global cyber attack. Our ability to lay a glove on that ecosystem is really limited. We try with law enforcement, with sanctions, but the ability to anonymise, obfuscate your identity, operate from a safe haven jurisdiction is something that presents a real challenge for us. So we have a much broader array of malicious cyber actors in the world. We see that cyber is a domain for geopolitical competition and, unfortunately, for conflict. We all know the Russian invasion of Ukraine. That brought with it Russia's immense cyber capabilities levelled against Ukrainian society. So not just military targets, civilian infrastructure, telecommunications, power. But I think a more instructive example is the NotPetya attack from a few years ago. Again, Russia levelled against Ukraine. NotPetya was a piece of malware, and it was designed to exert disruption to Ukrainian society. How did they do it? They used accounting software. They used the most ubiquitous form of accounting software in Ukraine and introduced malware to find a way to find the vulnerability point that was pervasive throughout society that then shut down businesses, government, services. We then track forward to the SolarWinds attack. Now, this was a supply chain attack that got into software, again, that's ubiquitously used. That SolarWinds attack, again perpetrated by Russia, was not as bad as it could have been. But I want to link that to the CrowdStrike outage from a few weeks ago. This was a technical outage, an update failure that shut down 1% of Microsoft computers globally. That was an outage that affected essential services, shut down airports, affected a lot of businesses. 1%, and it had a global impact. That shows us a couple of things. That was a failure, a software update failure, a supply chain attack into software of the type that CrowdStrike used that affected 1% of Microsoft devices globally was almost catastrophic. What if you were more planned, you got into that supply chain and you shut down 10% of Microsoft devices globally? Microsoft, whether we like it or not, is global critical infrastructure. That sort of effect will have an economic impact of billions of dollars. That is the type of attack that is being planned, that is being deployed elsewhere. So we're not talking about future risk. We're talking about risk that has been realised and that has been used against, in the NotPetya example, with Ukraine. But as some of you might know, that malware then spread to the National Health Service in the UK. It spread to the Cadbury factory in Tasmania. So these things become hard to control. We then see the activities of North Korea. North Korea is engaging its private sector malicious cyber actors in the theft of cryptocurrency, which is funding its nuclear weapons program and ballistic missile program. This is, again, happening today. We've collectively, as a global community, exerted sanctions to try and limit North Korea's ability to develop these weapons. They have effectively circumvented many of those sanctions by stealing billions of dollars of currency and cryptocurrency. That is destabilising for this region. In Australia, we've drawn attention to the activities of a group known as Volt Typhoon that operates out of China. This is a group that is targeting, pre-positioning to disrupt civilian critical infrastructure. We've established norms of responsible behaviour in cyberspace which say targeting cyber attacks against civilian critical infrastructure is unacceptable. Those norms are being transgressed. What does that mean from a national security perspective? That means that we are worried about a cyber attack that could be disabling to the services, the functions that Australians rely on every day. We are worried about strategic deteriorating circumstances in the region of which cyber will be used as a tool to undermine the stability of the Indo-Pacific. Again, these are not theoretical future risks, these are real risks. We are worried about the direction of global governance of key pieces of technology, and this is where I'll come back to the AI piece. There is a sense in the world, and when I go to conversations at the United Nations, that technology has been developed by Western companies using Western data for Western people. There is a sense that the AI revolution, in whatever way it comes, will benefit those who are already at advantage in the digital world, that it will entrench the digital divide. There is a sense that when we develop technology in a country like Australia or in the US, we are not thinking about the development needs of the rest of the world. We're not thinking about how this can benefit in terms of healthcare, education. And we are seeing that other states, including China, including Russia, are promulgating a narrative that the technology that we are developing is not the technology that will meet the needs of the developing world. We're seeing a very successful campaign to promote technologies that are developed out of China. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, when we look at the direction of authoritarian states when it comes to the use of digital tools to exert information campaigns, to use tools to surveil, to potentially pre-position as part of telecommunications or power infrastructure to disrupt for the purposes of coercion, for the purposes of taking advantage of the strategic situation that is getting much more difficult in this region. A world which is dominated by technologies that do not prioritise safety and security, that are vulnerable to the type of malicious cyber attacks that I've described, is a world in which stability is also undermined. Our trust in the digital environment is also undermined. When it comes to AI, there are already things that we are seeing in terms of the application of AI that are deeply problematic. Again, I'm coming at it from the pessimistic perspective. There are some incredible opportunities that AI will bring. The productivity benefits, the application to disaster prevention, the application to healthcare are incredibly promising. But today, we're seeing AI being used in spear phishing attacks to create really compelling content that makes you click on a link that gives someone access to your network and allows them to do what they want to do. We're seeing AI tools really effectively used in information campaigns, in foreign interference. We're seeing if you are an operator in a foreign country who's looking to influence the political discourse in a country like Australia, that might have been difficult without the cultural knowledge or the language skills. Generative AI has made your life a whole lot easier to conduct your information operations. So with all the benefits, the immediate repurposing of technology for malicious aims comes with it. The global governance of AI is an area where I think we're also in a very precarious situation. The free market, the technical community that has driven the development of so many of these technologies, that created the internet, which is the backbone of the digital technology world, are not things that we can assume to always be present. They're not things that we can assume to always be stable. We are seeing a push through multilateral institutions to introduce greater state control of internet governance, of the technical layer of the internet, and a push to govern the global use of AI. Now, that might sound innocuous, but most of these technologies in a global governance sense are governed by a multi-stakeholder community. That means that civil society, industry, technical people have a voice in the room, have a voice in shaping the governance, the rules that govern these technologies. A state-led approach means those people are not in the room. Those people are not governing these technologies. That means that states are a heavy UN role through global AI boards that are being established at the moment, through the Global Digital Compact that will be presented in September at the annual gathering of leaders at High Level Week, potentially position states to have a far more significant role which will undermine the multi-stakeholder community approach, which will undermine the free market principles that have allowed so many of these technologies to thrive. Potentially allows authoritarian states to exert their agenda on the control of information, on the access to these tools, on the input of data into AI products, and therefore into the output that comes from these tools. This is a really precarious situation for us at the moment, for anyone who's interested in the global rules-based order. The next few years, I think, are going to be deeply challenging for the expectations that we have built, that global digital tools are developed by innovative people like those in the room, that are bought and sold in a global free market, and that enable access to citizens in a way that they choose. The potential throughout the world for more authoritarian approaches to the use of that technology is very real. The potential for that technology to be used against us, to be used to destabilise, is real. So, where does that leave us? Australia has a really prominent place in these global dynamics. We are often a trusted middle ground country that is not looking to tell anyone what to do, is not looking to say, you must use this technology or you must use that technology. What we talk about is the importance of security, safety and sovereignty in all the technologies that we use. Security by design, so that our people, our companies, our industry, when they adopt digital technologies, are less exposed to these types of vulnerabilities. The importance of awareness of cybersecurity, not as a technical discipline, but as an economic prosperity discipline, as part of our foreign policy, as part of our national interest, expanding the conversation from just the technical community so that everyone understands cybersecurity matters to the stability and prosperity of our nation. It means that when we design tools, when we design the next phase of AI, rushing to market is often a risky thing to do if the security of those technologies is not prioritised. If we haven't thought through how might a malicious actor repurpose or take advantage of this technology, because they will and they are. That's our opportunity to shape that. In this space, the Australian government is willing to regulate, but in a lot of areas like AI, wants to do so cautiously because there's a lot that is evolving. We want to encourage innovation, we want to take advantage of these opportunities, but we also want to make sure that we're not exposing our people, our nation, our region to the type of risks that someone in my position worries about and sees playing out. So my message is that this is everyone's business. This is not a government agenda, it's not an industry agenda. This is a whole of nation endeavour that as we embark on the next era of digital technologies, the life-changing benefits that they bring, we need to be thoughtful about how they're developed, how they're deployed, how we know what information and data is in those tools, and how we protect it and how we secure it. Doesn't mean we need to lock everything down, be overcautious, doesn't necessarily mean we need to slow down, but it does mean we need to be thoughtful and we can't be naive to the way that so much of the digital world is fragile because we haven't built it in a secure way and we've made it too easy for malicious actors to take advantage. I think if we can factor in that, I'll be less pessimistic in the future. There is an optimistic world where we've brought incredible benefits, where we love the digital technologies that dominate our lives. If we get that right, the opportunities are boundless. But if we get it wrong, I think we're in for a rough period over the next few years. Thanks so much for your time.